Tonight, I will tell you a story about whispers, whispers that can hurt, but also about truth, the kind of truth that always heals. Make yourself comfortable, snuggle under your blanket, and listen closely. Here begins the tale, Luna Wilow and the Whisper of Rumors. At the very edge of the Enchanted Forest, where the first rays of sunlight gently touched the soft moss, there lived Luna Wilow. Every morning she was awakened by the most beautiful concert in the world, the singing of hundreds of tiny birds. Their melodies sounded like golden threads weaving a brand new day, warm, peaceful, and full of joy. Luna stretched with a smile and looked out the window. Chickadees and sparrows danced among the branches, and the air felt as light as a dream. "How wonderfully the day begins," she whispered, feeling the gentle warmth of morning on her cheeks. But one Tuesday, everything changed. Instead of cheerful songs, Luna was greeted by a deep, heavy silence. The forest did not sing. For a moment, it was as if the whole world held its breath, and then a sound tore through the air like scraping iron, the loud, ominous cawing of ravens. Black shapes covered the sky, and the little birds, trembling with fear, hid in the deepest corners of their nests. A shiver ran down Luna's spine. She turned to her faithful companion. Beside her stood Siven, a grown white wolf with silvery fur and wise eyes. "This isn't natural, Siven," she said softly. "Something dark has crept into our home." Together they walked deeper into the forest. The farther they went, the stranger the world became. The woods, once filled with calm and harmony, had turned into a place of bitterness. Animals who had always been friends now argued over the smallest things. A little rabbit stomped its foot at a squirrel. A hedgehog bristled its spines the moment a fox passed by. Something heavy hung in the air, something that had never been there before. Luna watched with sadness. "Why is there so much anger in them?" she whispered. "Just yesterday they were like family." Siven's ears twitched. He could feel it too. This was no ordinary quarrel. It was something more. Hidden behind the trunk of an ancient oak, a small grey creature was sitting. Its eyes shone unnaturally, as if they reflected the secrets of others. It giggled quietly to itself, covering its mouth with a little paw, and whispered something into the ear of every animal that passed by. Again and again, it reached into a leather pouch and scattered a fine, silvery dust. Wherever the dust fell, a new argument instantly burst into life. A rabbit suddenly shouted at the fox. A squirrel turned away from the hedgehog in offense. Luna watched from her hiding place, and a bright thought lit up inside her heart. So it isn't an accident, she realized. He is the one planting the seeds of discord. High above them, on the dark branches, sat the ravens. Their cawing was not an ordinary bird sound. It echoed like mocking laughter, laughter that fed the anger of the animals below. The forest sank into an unnatural twilight, as if even the sun was afraid to break through the barrier of black wings. Luna clenched her hands. "We have to stop this, Siven," she said firmly, though pain trembled in her voice. "That dust is poisoning the hearts of our friends." Siven let out a low growl. He too was ready to protect the forest. Luna decided to watch the creature more closely. She hid behind a bush and observed as it crept toward a little rabbit who was gathering berries into a basket. The creature leaned down, and the silvery dust swirled through the air. "You know," it whispered softly, "I heard that the squirrel has been telling everyone that you are too slow and boring, that no one wants to play with you." The little rabbit froze in disbelief. Its cheeks began to burn with shame and sorrow. Its paws tightened around the basket. "What?" it suddenly cried. "That's not true. How could she?" In anger, the rabbit threw the basket onto the ground, and the berries scattered across the moss like tiny dark tears. Luna held her breath. She could already see how easily one lie could set a heart on fire. A moment later, the creature was already beside the fox. The fox was walking slowly along the forest path, sniffing through the grass as if searching for something to eat. The creature approached quietly, almost soundlessly, and once again the silvery dust danced through the air. "I heard in the bushes," the creature whispered smoothly, "that the hedgehog is planning to take your den. The moment you go hunting." The fox stopped suddenly. Its eyes narrowed, a shadow of suspicion appeared in its gaze, and deep in its throat a low, dangerous growl was born. "My den?" it hissed. "I will never allow that." Its tail twitched nervously. Anger flared inside the fox's heart, even though just a moment ago there had been none at all. Hidden among the trees, Luna felt sadness growing inside her. The animals were not evil, it was the lie slipping into them like a shadow. With every passing hour, the forest became a darker place, as if the light was slowly fading, not in the sky, but in the hearts of its creatures. No one trusted anyone anymore. Every glance carried suspicion. Every word was sharp like a thorn. The animals began to think the worst of one another. "He surely wants to hurt me. She must be hiding something." Laughter was replaced by blame. Play was replaced by threatening stares. And where friendly voices had once filled the air, now there were only arguments and the rustling of anger. High above, the ravens circled in greater numbers. Their black wings cut across the sky like shadows. They seemed to grow stronger, rejoicing in every bitter word that fell to the ground, as if that was what they fed on. Luna could feel it. If nothing changed, the forest might never sing again as it once had. Luna tried to approach the animals. She spoke gently. She explained. She begged them to stop, to listen to their hearts, not to their anger. But they looked at her as if they no longer recognized her at all. Their eyes were as if covered in mist. They could see only what the silvery dust whispered to them. Every kind word bounced off them like a raindrop against stone. Luna felt helpless. "I must reach the source of this magic," she thought. "As long as the dust exists, the forest will suffer." Then Siven lifted his nose. His wolfish sense caught something strange, a metallic, cold scent coming from the creature's pouch. It was not the smell of earth. It was not the smell of the forest. It was the smell of a lie. Luna did not wait any longer. She stepped out from behind the tree and stood directly in front of the creature. For a moment, the forest fell silent, as if even the wind wanted to listen. "Why are you doing this?" Luna asked. "Why are you destroying the peace of our friends?" There was no anger in her voice, only deep sadness. The creature flinched. Its confidence suddenly vanished, like smoke carried away by the wind. It lowered its head and nervously began twisting the leather pouch between its fingers. "Because then," it choked out softly, "then I matter." It hesitated and its voice grew even weaker. "When I whisper secrets, everyone listens. They fear me, so they look at me." It squeezed its eyes shut. "Otherwise," it whispered, "otherwise no one would even notice me." Silence fell. The kind of silence where you can hear the pain hidden inside words. Luna took a step closer. "What is your name?" she asked gently. The creature hesitated, as if it hadn't heard that question in a very long time, as if no one had truly wanted to know it. "Myrmic," it finally whispered. "My name is Myrmic." Luna looked at the pouch in his hands. Her voice became quiet, almost a whisper. "Where did you get this?" she asked softly. There is no such magic in our forest, magic that teaches hatred. Murmik slowly sat down on a protruding root, as if his strength had suddenly left him. His shining eyes filled with memories. For a moment, he was silent. Then he spoke in a trembling voice. It didn't begin here. He lowered his gaze. Before, no one noticed me. I would say good morning, and the animals would rush past, busy with their own lives. His little paws tightened gently on his knees. I felt, he whispered, as if I were made of mist. He lifted his eyes to Luna, as if I didn't exist at all. One day, searching for shelter from the rain, Murmik wandered to the edge of the Rocky Mountains. The sky was heavy with clouds and the drops fell harder and harder. He ran until he finally saw the entrance to a dark cave. It was the Cave of Forgetting. Inside it was cold and smelled of damp air and ancient stone. Murmik took a few uncertain steps, and then he heard a voice, low, rough, as if it came from the darkness itself. No one likes you, do they? No one listens to your stories? Murmik froze. From the shadows, a huge raven slowly emerged. Its eyes were black as coal. It was the king of ravens. Frightened, Murmik only nodded. His heart was pounding fast. He felt so small beside this great dark figure. In a trembling voice, he told the bird about his loneliness, about how he was too little for anyone to notice and too ordinary for anyone to ever like. The raven laughed. It sounded like dry branches cracking. I will give you power, little creature, the raven croaked. With this dust, every word you speak will be louder than a lion's roar. He leaned closer. Anyone you sprinkle will look only at you and listen only to your whispers. The king of ravens reached beneath his wing and pulled out an old leather pouch. It was filled with silvery dust that shimmered even in the darkness. This is the dust of the crooked mirror, he croaked. It makes friends see enemies in one another, and you become the only source of truth. The raven smiled, a shadow of a smile. But remember, he added more quietly, we ravens will follow you. His wings stirred the air. We will be your army, as long as you keep scattering the dust. Murmik accepted the gift. At first, he was happy that the animals finally stopped ignoring him. When he said, "The squirrel doesn't like you," the little rabbit would freeze and listen with held breath. At last, someone looked. At last, someone heard. I felt, Murmik whispered to Luna, lowering his eyes, powerful. But then his voice began to tremble. I didn't know that the dust fed on the sadness of the forest. The more there were arguments, the more ravens flew in from the cave. He stared at his hands, and he whispered, I began to fear them, just like everyone else. Luna knelt beside Murmik so she could be at the level of his shining eyes. Her voice was soft and warm. There was no anger in it, no judgment. True friendship is not born from fear, she said gently, nor from lies. She nodded toward the animals in the forest. Look at them, she whispered. Do you truly want to be seen as the one who brings pain? Murmik trembled. Luna placed her hand on his shoulder. They do not need your whispers. They need someone who knows how to listen. Suddenly, the sky above them began to churn. The air grew thick, as if a storm were approaching. The ravens, sensing danger, began to dive down. Their black wings spun around the clearing, forming a dark wall. The cawing became deafening. Murmik stepped back in terror. They don't want me to stop, he cried. They feed on this sadness. Luna gripped his hand tightly. Do not be afraid, she said calmly. You are not alone anymore. Murmik looked at her, tears filling his eyes. But if I stop, he whispered. "I will become no one again." Luna looked straight into his eyes. Her gaze was bright as light itself. "That is the raven's lie," she answered. "Truth has greater power than any dust." She leaned closer. "Try just once to speak honestly, and you will see that the light of the heart is stronger than the shadow." The ravens beat their wings against the air, trying to drown out her words. The black whirlwind tightened closer and closer. Then Siven, the great white wolf with silvery fur, stepped proudly into the clearing. He lifted his head toward the sky and howled. His voice was powerful, pure, bright as a bell in the silence. The earth trembled, the dark wall of ravens wavered, and several birds, panicked, flew away toward the mountains. Luna turned to Murmik. "Do you see?" she called. "Darkness runs from the truth." With trembling hands, Murmik removed his grey cap. Until now it had hidden his face, as if he had always wanted to remain invisible. For the first time, everyone truly saw him. He was small, defenseless, and his eyes were full of longing. "I have been hiding all this time," he whispered. His voice was as soft as a leaf falling to the ground. "I thought no one could ever like me as I truly am." He looked at Luna, a small, grey Murmik. Luna gently touched his shoulder. "Honesty," she said softly, "is the only way for the heart to become truly visible to others." Murmik looked at the pouch in his hands. Now he understood. That importance the dust had given him had only been an illusion. Slowly he untied the string, and then he poured the last of the silvery dust onto the ground. For a moment, the dust rose into the air, shimmering, as if searching for new hearts to poison. But the chist air of the forest was stronger. The dust dissolved within it, like smoke in the wind, and it vanished. The animals in the forest suddenly stopped, as if invisible blindfolds had been lifted from their eyes. The hedgehog slowly lowered its spines. The fox relaxed its tense muscles. Everyone looked at Murmik with curiosity, but also with caution. The little creature stepped forward. "I'm sorry," he began shyly. He lowered his head. "I lied to you because I wanted to feel important." A short silence fell. Then the hedgehog took one step closer and said calmly, "You could have simply asked if you could come and play with us." Luna smiled warmly. She gathered everyone beneath the ancient oak. The animals stood in a great circle, like one forest family. Luna looked at them carefully. "Rumors are like the black wings of ravens," she said. "They block the sunlight, and they steal the joy of being together." Her voice was calm but strong. "But when we find the courage to look into each other's eyes and speak the truth, lies have nowhere left to hide." And then something extraordinary happened. The more the animals talked, explained misunderstandings, and forgave one another, the brighter the forest became, as if harmony itself was light. The last ravens, unable to bear the air of friendship, rose into the sky. With angry cries, they flew far away until they disappeared beyond the horizon. Sunlight once again poured gold across the clearing, and the little birds returned to the branches to finish their interrupted concert. Murmik stood a little to the side. He played with the edge of his cap, uncertain, like someone who was only just learning what hope feels like. And, "Would you," he whispered, "after all of this, will you accept me among you?" His voice was so quiet it could barely be heard. Then the squirrel jumped onto the lowest branch and called out happily, "Of course." She blinked playfully, "but on one condition, that now we all run and play tag." "I'm chasing," shouted the little rabbit, and shot forward like an arrow, and the forest was filled with laughter once again. From that day on, the enchanted forest changed forever. There was no longer any place for quiet whispers behind backs, no place for the dust of lies. Murmic's laughter became one of the most familiar sounds carried by the wind. He was no longer a gray creature in the shadows. He became a true inhabitant of the forest, someone who finally belonged. That evening, as the sun was going to sleep, Murmic approached Luna. The first stars were already appearing in the sky. "Thank you, Luna," he said softly. "I thought rumors gave strength, but it is truth that brings peace." Luna smiled warmly. "Murmic," she replied, "that is a beautiful name." She placed her hand on his shoulder. "From this day on, you will be our guardian of honesty." And so it was. Murmic always reminded the animals that a lie is like a shadow. It seems so large until the light begins to shine within our hearts. And Luna Willow, watching the happy forest, knew one thing: as long as they were together, as long as they spoke the truth, no black wings would ever cover their sunlight again. And so this story comes to an end. The story of Murmic, who finally understood that true strength is not born from rumors or fear, but from honesty, kindness, and the courage to be yourself. Thank you for being with me today in the Enchanted Forest. And if you wish, very soon I will invite you into another fairy tale about Luna Wilow, because in this forest a new adventure is always waiting. Until next time, good night, and never stop dreaming.